I'm Morgan. I'm 32, single mom, provider, the quiet backbone of a family that just kicked me out on Thanksgiving. No warning, no shouting, just Amanda's voice slicing through the room. She can leave, or I will. And they let me go. 5 years of covering their mortgage, their groceries, their emergencies. 5 years of silence bought with bank transfers. And still, when my sister snapped her fingers, I was the one shown the door, with a container of leftovers and a look that said, "Don't make a scene." If you've ever poured yourself into a family that only noticed you when you stopped giving, stick around. This story is for you. I never imagined Thanksgiving could feel so cold, even with the house full of family. The afternoon sun cast long shadows over the familiar suburban neighborhood as Morgan buckled her son Ethan into his car seat. She glanced at the carefully packed bags beside her. Homemade cranberry sauce, pumpkin pies fresh from the oven, and wrapped gifts for everyone. Today was supposed to be a celebration of togetherness, a moment to build memories with the people who were supposed to love her unconditionally. Instead, an icy tension clung to her chest. Earlier that week, the subtle shift in her parents' tone during their phone calls had unsettled her. Their casual invites felt more like obligations, their words carrying an unspoken warning. "Are you sure you need to come this year, Morgan?" her mother had asked, hesitating just long enough to plant doubt. Morgan brushed it off. Maybe nerves, maybe just overthinking. But now, as the front door swung open and the familiar faces greeted her, the warmth she expected was nowhere to be found. Amanda stood near the entrance, arms crossed, her gaze sharp and unforgiving. Her black hair, streaked with purple, caught the light as she sneered, "What is ST doing here?" Morgan's heart clenched as the room's atmosphere shifted palpably. The family exchanged uneasy glances, some avoiding Morgan's eyes altogether. Uncle Thomas and Aunt Lily were present, but even their usual warmth was absent. Morgan's steps faltered as she carried the pies and cranberry sauce inside, trying to ignore the hostility simmering beneath polite nods. Ethan clutched her hand tightly, his small fingers trembling with uncertainty. The moment Amanda loudly declared she wouldn't sit at the same table as Morgan, the crushing weight of betrayal pressed down on her. Her parents, instead of defending her, silently acquiesced, offering a hollow apology and packing leftovers for them to take away. Tears threatened as Morgan lifted Ethan into her arms and headed for the door, but her voice was steady when she whispered, "We'll make our own Thanksgiving, buddy." Outside, the cold air was sharp, but it felt less biting than the rejection left behind. In that moment of loss, a quiet determination ignited. This wasn't the end. It was the beginning of setting boundaries, reclaiming dignity, and proving that true family wasn't just about blood. It was about respect. I never imagined Thanksgiving could feel so cold, even with the house full of family. That afternoon, Morgan sat across from her best friend Rachel in the quiet corner of their favorite coffee shop. The steam from their mugs curled upward, but the warmth inside did little to thaw the chill still lingering from her parents' house. Rachel listened intently as Morgan recounted the painful events of the day. The icy stares, Amanda's cold hostility, and the crushing weight of rejection. Rachel's voice was calm but firm. "Morgan, you've always been the responsible one, the rock. But sometimes being the strong one means they take you for granted. You've been carrying them all these years, haven't you?" Morgan nodded, her fingers tightening around her cup. 5 years. I covered their mortgage, utilities, car payments, even the roof repairs. I paid for Amanda's rehab stays, therapy sessions, groceries, everything. And not once did I hear a real thank you. My mother always said I was the responsible one, but I never thought it was code for the ATM. Rachel's eyes softened with concern. "It's time you stop being the family's bank. They've been feeding off your kindness, and Amanda's been the favored one, the golden child, even when she brought chaos." Morgan swallowed hard. The truth stung, but it was a truth she couldn't deny any longer. The realization of how deeply she'd been used simmered beneath her skin, sparking a quiet fire of resolve. Her phone buzzed suddenly. She glanced at the screen. A text alert for a $5,000 withdrawal from the joint account she maintained for emergency expenses. She stared, heart pounding, as the pieces fell into place. Her parents had taken that money without telling her. Money that was meant for emergencies, now diverted to bail Amanda out once again. No more, Morgan whispered to herself, a steely determination setting in. This betrayal was the final thread in a tangled web of lies and silence. She would not keep quiet any longer. Plans began to form in her mind. Not impulsive revenge, but a measured reclaiming of her dignity and rights. The long silence would end, and with it, the cycle of taking without gratitude. Her journey toward justice was just beginning. Sometimes love means knowing when to say no. Morgan sat at her kitchen table, papers spread out before her. Bank statements, invoices, and a meticulous 5-year budget she had painstakingly compiled. Each line item told a story of sacrifices made and kindness taken for granted. Her hands trembled slightly as she stared at the total. Over $150,000 in support given to her parents and Amanda. It was time to draw a line. Her mind flashed back to a memory she had held on to for years. Her mother's tearful words after her father's heart attack. "We don't know what we'd do without you, Morgan." Those words had once felt like praise. Now they echoed like a warning of dependency. This time, Morgan resolved, things had to change. That evening, she arrived at her parents' house, the weight of her decision pressing heavily on her. Her parents greeted her with a mixture of relief and unease, unaware of the conversation ahead. Morgan laid the budget on the coffee table, her voice steady but firm. "I've supported this family for years," she began, "but it's no longer sustainable. I'm setting up a gradual reduction plan. Over the next 6 months, my financial support will decrease until it stops." Her father's eyes narrowed, disbelief flickering across his face, while her mother's lips pressed into a thin line. Amanda's sudden entrance shattered the fragile calm. She stormed into the room, her eyes blazing with accusation. "Do you think you can change things that easily? You're just proving how perfect you think you are." The tension thickened, voices rising in a clash of pain and denial. Morgan met her sister's glare with quiet resolve. "This isn't about being perfect. It's about respect. For me, and for Ethan." The room fell silent, the reality settling like a storm cloud. Amanda's challenge hung in the air. "Do you really believe you can change this family?" Morgan's heart pounded, but she knew the answer. This was the boundary she had to set. Not just to reclaim her finances, but to reclaim herself. The fight for justice had begun, but the road ahead promised hardship. Yet, sometimes love meant standing firm, even when it meant standing alone. "They thought I was just the provider, but I was preparing my defense all along." Morgan stood at the threshold of her parents' living room, clutching the folder filled with years of financial records, a shield forged from truth and determination. The air inside was thick with tension, the familiar walls now feeling more like a courtroom than a home. She could almost hear the whispered judgments, the silent accusations wrapped beneath forced smiles. Her mind flickered through countless moments when her generosity had been met with entitlement, when her kindness was mistaken for weakness. But this time, she refused to be the silent victim. This time, she was ready. Clearing her throat, Morgan laid out the meticulously detailed financial statements before her parents, her voice unwavering. "This is everything. Every payment, every bill I've covered for the past 5 years. It's time for transparency. I deserve honesty, and so does Ethan." Her parents exchanged uneasy glances, their silence louder than any rebuttal. Amanda, ever the provocateur, leaned forward with a sharp edge. "Why are you making such a scene? Can't you just let things be?" Her words were laced with calculated venom, aiming to fracture the fragile calm. She pressed harder, trying to turn the family against Morgan, attempting to destabilize the ground beneath her feet. But then, unexpectedly, Uncle Thomas stepped forward. His eyes, once distant, now held a quiet resolve. "Morgan is right," he said firmly. "It's time we face the truth. No more hiding behind excuses." His support was like a beacon in the storm, shifting the balance subtly but decisively. Feeling emboldened, Morgan revealed the harshest truths she had uncovered: illegal expenses, cover-ups, and the misuse of funds disguised as family support. The room's temperature dropped as the gravity of her accusations settled in. Her parents faltered, their composed facades cracking under the weight of undeniable evidence. Amanda's usual smugness faded into stunned silence, caught off guard by Morgan's fierce resistance and unwavering resolve. The confrontation had peeled back years of deception, but the battle was far from over. As the family grappled with the exposed truths, Morgan stood firm, ready to claim the respect and justice long denied to her. Sometimes breaking free means burning bridges, but it's the only way to heal. Morgan sat at her kitchen table, the soft hum of the city outside barely reaching her. The folder with all her financial documents lay open, a symbol of both years of sacrifice and the painful clarity she'd finally embraced. She recalled the countless moments she had forgiven her parents, giving them chance after chance, yet the cycle of neglect and entitlement never ceased. The decision wasn't easy, but it was necessary. She drafted a plan to gradually reduce the financial support she had been providing for the past 5 years, stretching over 6 months, a buffer for her parents to adjust without sudden collapse. The thought of breaking away from what she had once believed was her duty stirred a cocktail of guilt and relief within her. Inevitably, news of her decision rippled through the family. Calls came flooding in. Pleas, guilt trips, veiled threats disguised as concern. Her parents argued that she was abandoning them, while Amanda's sharp words hinted at looming battles yet to come. But Morgan was no longer the woman who would crumble under pressure. In these trying moments, Rachel became her anchor. Over countless cups of coffee, Rachel listened with unwavering empathy, offering both comfort and pragmatic advice. "You're doing what's right for you and Ethan," she reminded Morgan firmly, "not what they expect." Those words bolstered Morgan's resolve, reaffirming that self-care wasn't selfish. It was survival. With steely determination, Morgan finalized her decision. She would freeze all payments at the end of the transition period, severing the financial ties that had long chained her to a toxic past. It was a break both symbolic and practical, a line drawn in the sand. But just as she began to feel a flicker of peace, her phone buzzed with a cryptic message from Amanda. "This isn't the end." The warning sent a shiver down Morgan's spine, a reminder that while she was breaking free, the shadows of her family's drama still lingered, threatening to pull her back in. Yet beneath the uncertainty, a new strength had taken root. No matter what came next, Morgan was ready to face it on her own terms. "We may be broken, but we are not defeated." The soft glow of string lights bathed Morgan's living room in a warm, golden hue as laughter and conversation filled the air. Around the table sat a small group of friends: Sophie, Rachel, and a few others who had become more like family than friends ever were. Ethan's eyes sparkled with joy as he shared a story about school, his carefree laughter a balm to Morgan's still healing heart. The room was far from perfect. No grand decorations, no sprawling feast. But it held something far more precious: genuine connection and acceptance. Morgan watched Ethan tuck into his plate with a contented smile and felt a quiet hope settled deep inside. This was the family she had chosen, a safe harbor from the storms of the past. Her phone buzzed softly on the side table. A glance revealed a message from Amanda, tentative, apologetic, hinting at progress but still distant. Morgan typed a short, encouraging reply. Distance was still needed, but the door was no longer closed entirely. As the evening wound down, Morgan stepped to the window, looking out at the quiet street bathed in moonlight. Her phone vibrated again. This time, a notification popped up. An unexpected job opportunity, one that promised new beginnings and challenges. The message read simply, "A new chapter awaits." A subtle smile touched Morgan's lips. Though the road ahead was uncertain, it was hers to shape. The old battles had been fought, the old wounds acknowledged, and now, with strength born of resilience and love, Morgan was ready to build something new. Outside, the night was calm, but inside, a quiet fire burned, bright and unyielding. The story closes on a note of bittersweet triumph. where years of silent sacrifice and betrayal culminate in justice reclaimed. Morgan's journey from unnoticed provider to resolute defender of her own dignity reflects the harsh truth that fairness rarely comes without struggle. When injustice is met with unwavering courage, the final verdict can echo through a lifetime. Sometimes it takes just one brave step to transform a life overshadowed by pain into one defined by strength and hope. No fortress of deceit can endure forever against the relentless tide of truth.